Good morning from Clearwater, Florida. I wanted to continue the discussion about estimating volumes for a metric engine, particularly for an internal company, how someone might go do that. A good friend of mine in financial services contacted me recently and said, here's the numbers that I have for my reports. The things that we need to estimate typically are along three different lines, the beginning process of our process. First, we have to estimate the number of transactional data needed to produce reports, and we want to think about this in terms of what would be if I did things from the business event. If I had no posted summary of any kind, if I could do everything from the business event, remember the big idea video of eliminating posting, what would be the business events that would be required for producing this report or this set of reports? So these are the statistics he sent me on that. There are, in financial services, he has a lot of customers. This isn't a large bank, but it's a sizable bank. And there are quite a few loans. Loans are an important part in banking of the revenue side of the problem. There's also, and it's predictable in terms of what the payment processes look like around loans. There's more of a cycle to that. On the deposit side, there's less predictability as to what the deposit transactions look like. We also talked about what the average duration for a loan might be. That starts to get us some basic statistics around the customer side of things. Then I asked, well, what reports do you want to generate? He said, yes, I'm interested in generating daily profit and loss statements at a customer contract level. So that was the next set of statistics you need to gather is what are the reports, the characteristics around which reports, what kinds of reports, and how much that report needs, how much data that report would need to be produced from the business event. The third area is around the reference data. Reference data files can be fairly small, not real sizable in some instances, but when we start to do things at the customer level, the customer data starts to become reference data for our metric engine because we want to normalize things and maintain things on the customer. We don't want to put all of the customer attributes on the balances because if customer changes, we want to be able to reflect that in our recast view, our reclass process. So customer becomes, in his instance, a fairly sizable reference data sort of material. Now after we gathered these basic statistics, I looked at them and I said, you know, I don't think you've got the full set of statistics you need on the transaction side of things. If you want to do a profit and loss statement, you have to have cost. So I asked my friend, what are the costs you want to include in your customer contract P&L level reports? He said, oh, I need to come back to you. Because the elements of cost that I asked about, I said, do you want to just include operational cost? Operational costs aren't attributable to customer. We accumulate cost for things by other types of metrics, like by vendors, by perhaps even by employees, by processes, all of those kinds of things that are not where we get the cost there, and they're not reflected in the statistics he sent me today for the transactional data. So he had to go back and start thinking about that. I also asked, do you want to include capital cost, the cost of money for loaning them the money? Because capital cost now is going to be much more voluminous than would be probably the operational cost because it comes back to understanding the customer contracts and those kinds of things. So we'll start with those three types of statistics before we go on to the next stage of the process.